All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping in today, this afternoon, before the holidays, to hear from Applied Software and Panzura. We'd like today to talk to you guys about WAN acceleration and the Panzura product that we offer. And today we've got with us Ken Marks from Panzura to kind of guide you guys through a presentation, a high-level presentation on Panzura for the AEC industry. So with that, I'd like to hand it right over to Ken. And once again, thanks for attending.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ken Marks. I'm the Area Sales Director for Panzura. I'm responsible for our business here in the Southeast. I'm based out of Orlando. So appreciate everyone's time today and want to wish everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Hanukkah for everyone and time with your families. So appreciate time today here in the last couple of days before the holidays take over. So look forward to your questions and want to keep this interactive. And let me start off by saying, what Panzura is, and it's a bit of a misconception sometimes. And Panzura, we are not a WAN optimization product per se. And WAN optimization is a byproduct of what we do, but we are very different than what Riverbed and other products that are trying to widen the bandwidth of the network effectively for you. And we are about shortening the highway, about presenting that data locally, and transforming your IT infrastructure around how you store and present and protect all of your unstructured file data, so all of your engineering models and data, but as well as all the other file data inside your organization as well. So it really is a transformative global file system that brings tremendous efficiencies for your engineers, architects, and designers, but also brings tremendous benefits in terms of helping you get out of being in the IT infrastructure business as a business as usual type of process and not having to refresh your file storage and the associated servers and the backup software and the WAN optimization and so forth every 3 to 4 years like you traditionally do. We're always looking for more. We will, and I'll talk more about that as we get started. So I thought that'd be a very helpful way to kind of, level set getting started here today. So a little bit about Panzura. I joined Panzura coming from EMC. I ran the data protection software business for the Central United States for EMC. And Panzura is blessed with some very, very sharp people, very, very experienced people, which is one of the things that brought people like myself here to Panzura. Some of the early thought leaders, both on the business side as well as on the technology side, equally important for having a successful company. Our business leadership successfully started and took public several multi-billion-dollar companies. So we have the business chops there from a business fundamentals standpoint, and our early employees from kind of the precursor to Panzura. And you think about file storage and trying to collaborate with that information better. NetApp and Riverbed were kind of at the forefront of that. Kind of first generation type companies for dealing with this unstructured data and how to get it around to work with it. People doing their jobs, whether it be engineers or sales or executive admins and so forth. That's the technology, fundamental technology out there. So Panzura wanted to take those kind of fundamental technologies and take that to a new, up an order of magnitude, and really transform how file storage is done, how it's presented, and how it's shared and collaborated, and how it's protected. Ensuring that data is always safe and protected, and got disaster recovery, built in as a inherent part of the architecture. And that's really what we've done. So from a rounding out the kind of the team is some members of our board. In this space, Carl Bass and Eric Wolford. Carl being as many of you probably know who he is, the CEO of Autodesk. We do tremendous amount of collaboration with Autodesk, and no, we are not a takeover candidate. So at this time, we have no intention of selling to Autodesk or anyone else. Panzura is enjoying a lot of success right now, and we're very grateful for that, and we plan to keep working hard to be a successful, fast-growing independent company. Carl, this is the only board that Carl sits on in this space, and the same is true for Eric Wolford, who is the former president of Riverbed and current board member of Riverbed. He sits on our board exclusively in this market space. So we're very pleased and get a lot of value from those gentlemen along with the rest of the team. Panzura, we've got over 500 global customers now. We're a 7-year-old company. The AEC space represents 75% of all of our new business. We have well over 100 AEC firms now as Panzura customers. You can see a number of them listed here. The purpose here was to show that this is a transformational infrastructure solution that provides tremendous collaboration benefits. So you see a disproportionate amount of AEC firms listed here, whether they be standalone firms like VOA or Mead & Hunt, Clark & Nixon, CNS, etc. The world's largest architectural firm, Gensler, with close to 50 locations around the world. Whether you're small, medium, or large, or extra large, Panzura's solution scales linearly. So we've got 1 office location firms. We've got 40 office location firms. And the system scales seamlessly to cover both. But it's not unique to AEC. You see across all vertical markets, all organizations are struggling with the explosion of unstructured data and how more effectively, transformationally, to manage this instead of having to be in that constant 3 to 4 year capital expense refresh cycle I was alluding to earlier. How can we present the data that we need and we're working with every day quickly and easily? And then how can we intelligently leverage the cloud and this proven platform now that hundreds of thousands of companies are using, and wholesale commitments from organizations like GE and J&J have committed publicly that they're strategically moving as many workloads to the public cloud as they possibly can. So it's no longer a nice to do, it's no longer a future thing, it's no longer a newfangled thing. It is a competitive imperative to most companies now. Most C-levels look at it exactly that way. So if you've ever been asked by your executives, yes?
Hey Ken, sorry to interrupt. Are you advancing the PowerPoint slides? Because we're still on the home screen.
You're still on. I'm on the second. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I wonder why that's not showing up. So you're seeing the title slide.
Yeah, your name. Yeah.
I apologize. I'm on the 3rd slide, and I'm not sure why that's not advancing. Let's take a quick time out and find out what's going on. Let's see if closing the other PowerPoint session might take care of the problem. So, what slide are you seeing now?
We see still the title one.
Still the title one. All right, I'm going to close out and reopen this again. Sorry for the perils of GoToMeeting WebEx technology at times, folks. So, okay. So let's see if I can try to pick up where I was really making a point about the universal value proposition that Panzura brings no matter what market, but it's especially acute and prominent among AEC firms, whether they be standalone firms or large engineering concerns inside large corporations such as Motorola and with Rockwell. Rockwell just signed up as a customer last quarter and is spending nearly $2 million for facilities worldwide. So companies are making substantial investments, whether they're spending $20,000 or $2 million. They're seeing great value from Panzura. Over 30 AEC firms became Panzura customers just last quarter alone. We closed out our fiscal quarter at the end of October. Was a record quarter by a substantial margin, record fiscal year. Our business is growing in leaps and bounds, and that cannot be said by others in this marketplace. So probably the best testimonial is that companies are voting with their wallets, and we've got dozens of happy customers that are happy to share their stories and their experiences, with our prospects. So we're very grateful for that. A couple quick high-level examples here, and we've got plenty more I can talk to if you've got specific questions. Really, to just illustrate a couple points. We have an AEC firm on the right, and the U.S. Department of Justice on the left. To illustrate this, DOJ is obviously a very big customer, but their needs were a little bit different than the typical AEC firm. Their concerns were first and foremost about runaway storage costs and how to get a handle on that across 265 locations, or about security, which is obviously a very sensitive information. All the antitrust prosecutions for Enron and for Microsoft is all on Panzura. But because you have the cloud as this elastic back-ending the Panzura global file system, which is presenting all that data so everyone can see all the data no matter where they're looking, where they're located at. It had very fast land speed access because that data is cached and presented locally in each office. You're able to get the benefits of not having to buy all that infrastructure or buy as well as infrastructure for what you think you're going to store. You're only going to be consuming what you need elastically. Think full utility model with the cloud on the back end. So this is for all of your unstructured data. But then you're getting the benefit of having that data cached locally, so you're getting that at a file system level, not at an application level. So for example, Graph USA, a ENR 500 engineering firm, they counted out they're running 395 different applications that are leveraging Panzura today. Because we're at the storage layer and the file system layer, really application agnostic completely. So what DOJ was able to get the benefit of is really rein in and strip out $9 million a year of storage spend. We are the only vendor in this space that's FIPS 140-2 certified and compliant from encryption standpoint, certified for government use, not to be confused with government-grade encryption, which is a marketing term. They're actually certified by National Institutes of Standards, who's also a customer of ours, by the way, as well as a number of intelligence agencies are. Other people in the space cannot make any such claim. This is the difference between being an engineering-centric firm focused on core technology and core value proposition, and probably not as much of a marketing company. That's probably a good way to describe Panzura. So, as well as not ever running out of storage and stripping the cost out of the equation, because it's an elastic back end, they don't have to pick up the phone. You don't have to pick up the phone and buy more storage and provision more storage and go through capital committee. It's elastic back end. You're only paying for what you consume. You do it very efficiently. But the other big thing for DOJ was true lights out management. This is a set and forget solution. The goal is to create less burden, significantly less burden on IT. It's completely transparent to the end users. They have no idea they're using Panzura whatsoever. There's no change in workflow. And it takes a huge burden off of IT, not just from a capital standpoint, but also from a span and control standpoint. We'll talk more about that. CNS, an ENR 500 company, 16 locations across the country, about 500 employees. They started with 100 terabytes of raw unstructured data that they had and were paying for on site. Once it was globally deduplicated by Panzura and compressed and put into the cloud, it was only 20 terabyte footprint. So at $30 a terabyte, they spend, their storage bill is $600 per month. And I can actually show you their bill because Eric Quinn, as well as many of our other customers, are very happy to share their experiences, with our customers. 11 nines of a data durability and reliability. If those of you who are in IT, you understand that's really an astronomical number. A couple of years ago, a Fortune 200 company's IT department would be thrilled with 4 or 5 nines of data durability. It would cost them tens of millions of dollars to achieve that. So what CNS struggles with, which many AEC firms, engineering firms struggle with, is not just that data problem, but the ability for effectiveness and productivity from their engineers and designers standpoint. The file open problem, the Revit Sync with Central problems, the things that are keeping them from getting jobs done, billing more hours, and being more profitable and more efficient using their resources in different locations. So CNS threw a lot of money at the problem. They tried, Eric tried, more storage, faster networking, a lot of money on riverbed land optimization. Never solved the problem. We're going to talk more about what that problem is, because it is all about latency with these very chatty applications like Civil 3D and Revit and so forth. But that is just around the efficiency standpoint. By applying Panzura presents itself as a Windows file share. So it looks no different than the file server does today, either to the user or to the application. They centralize all their storage in the back end in the Amazon cloud. No change in user workflow. They're going to the F drive, to the G drive like they always did. That's just represented by a Panzura. Because we present that data locally, and our appliances use high-performance SSD drives and are optimized for performance and speed, file open problem has gone away. We're going to get into a couple of use cases where we really broke these applications down with software sniffers and really looked and see what these applications do under the covers, so to speak. Eric was able to save $400,000 just in the first year. He saved well over $1 million since he's deployed Panzura a couple of years ago. He was able not to have to spend $150,000 on a new SAM. He actually decommissioned his MPLS network, which has cost him $20,000 a month, and went direct connect to the internet, costing $8,000 a month by comparison. And he was able to not upgrade any more of his RAN optimization, and he's able to drop his riverbed maintenance contract as a result. Because his problem wasn't about bandwidth, it was about latency. And those things do not solve latency issues. He has no more software he has no more backup software to have to pay for or maintain any longer, because backups and DR are inherent in the Panzura solution for his unstructured data. So Eric realized great benefits very, very quickly. So the goal of our solution, as you probably have alluded to seeing, is about centralizing your storage. So by giving your users a consistent experience no matter what office they're in, they're all going to get that same LAN speed across the LAN, regardless of office. You're able to leverage your resources really intelligently and not have to co-locate them for reasons of performance. Now they can be productive no matter what office they're in. Users don't have to change their workflow. The shiniest new object doesn't get a whole lot of impact if users have to change their behavior. And as we all know from our years in the business, they're very reluctant to do this. This requires no change in workflow whatsoever. And finally, it's all about simplifying your IT infrastructure and the opportunity to strip out costs out of those major silos, such as storage and servers and data protection and networking. So let me take a quick pause there and see if there's any questions. If not, I'm going to go ahead and wait. Is there a question coming in?
No questions yet.
Okay. All right. So we're going to dig into a couple of use cases here that highlight Panzura's commitment and investment in AEC and understanding and having expertise in AEC applications and what they do and how they behave and what their real needs and requirements are. And we've been doing this for years. This is nothing new for Panzura. It's why we have hundreds of customers today in the AEC space and adding a lot of value there. We took software experts from our engineering group and software sniffers and worked with one of our early customers, CNS, several years ago to really see what was going on with these engineering applications. And what the culprit was latency. The file open, file close, sync with central problems, the big impact on productivity, and corrupted files, and having multiple versions of engineering models and so forth that result from people trying to work around and get their job done. Huge impact on performance and productivity and profitability. The issue is about latency. It's not about bandwidth. And enhancing the bandwidth, as we're going to talk a little more in a second, doesn't solve the problem. So let's break down the problem here. This use case here, we took a very modest sized file to really illustrate the problem isn't around bandwidth at all. It's about how many times you have to make these round trips to perform these simple tasks such as just a file open sequence. So doing a file open with just a tiny file, 1.5 megabyte project file in Civil 3D. This is with WAN optimization. These are the major routine calls that are going on and the time it takes for each of those to complete, just to complete a simple file open. This is going between St. Louis and Syracuse, New York. That total elapsed time is 22 minutes. I'm sure you all have got stories about latency issues impacting applications, and they will vary depending on distances and latency and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of it's a huge hit to productivity, and it's one that is not easily overcome. By applying the same project file and same sequence by using Panzura, by presenting that data locally and caching that data, that active project locally, that's done in a matter of 8 seconds. So minutes to seconds is really the takeaway here. Again, you're getting that same consistent access no matter which office that you're in, because that active data that they're working on is cached locally. Your data protection is inherent and is built in as an added bonus. It is just the way the system is architected. So you've got 10,000 snapshots built in, and you've got the data protection, the disaster recovery that really can't be replicated in any way, shape, or form with the money available to spend in IT budgets today. So a quick summary here, whether you've got hot or cold optimized WAN links, it doesn't materially make an impact here. We can move our 1.5 meg file in seconds on our iPhone. Bandwidth is not the issue. Revit, probably the most notoriously chatty application out there. Real challenges for CNS on this particular project, 170 megabytes. Again, that's a respectable size. We've got customers that have got terabyte size files with Revit, with Gensler, for example, and others. So working with multi-terabyte size models, we have not been stumped or challenged or prevented from delivering the same impact on those file sizes, model sizes we do with 1 meg files or 200 meg or 500 meg files, just to drive home a point here. These are simply just common use case examples to illustrate the problem, the issue being with latency, and Sync was central in this particular case. And as you all may or may not know, as you add more users and your models grow in complexity, which is what Revit's all about, it's adding more comprehensive BIM capabilities and be able to have more people working on the model at the same time. And this is the real inherent issue, the real challenge, right? Is that if you really want to have collaboration and be able to have people working in real time on the same model, you need to have element level file locking, which Panzura is the only vendor that provides this. We're on a 3rd generation of file locking and had it out there for years. And that's something that no one else can claim and no one else can do or do properly in the marketplace today. So what does this do for you? The productivity, I think, is pretty straightforward and obvious from a BIM standpoint. But from an IT standpoint is you've got a set it and forget model now. You don't have to worry about people creating shadow IT, whether they're creating Dropbox accounts or Box accounts or other niche type of solutions been out there to try to help get the job done in light of some of the challenges that go. Panzura is deployed, and IT and BIM environments are able to now retire all those silo type of niche solutions, because now you have one ring to rule them all. The same user experience, everybody goes to their F or G drive, gets all the same data protection benefits, gets the blazing performance, and you have that elastic storage on the back end and the snapshotting built in, and you have it all done in a full self-service model by your users working exactly how they work today. And you've taken all of that span of control and infrastructure upgrading costing out of the equation, and you improved your level of data protection, and you've improved your efficiency for your engineering, your core business at the same time. So again, it's in minutes to seconds. 20 to 30 minutes down to 8 seconds. You're always writing locally. You've got that central managed efficiency, because it's all back in about the cloud, and it's been recognized repeatedly by Autodesk in their 2013, 14, and 15 official training guide in terms of what Panzura does for Revit. Again, another similar summary. Minutes to seconds. So, what does Panzura really do and really bring? So whether you're regional, whether you're national, whether you're global, is really irrelevant as far as how Panzura operates. As I mentioned, it scales completely linearly. It's a global file system with global namespace, global file locking, and unrivaled file locking in the industry, and with global deduplication built in automatically. Your authoritative copy is the cloud in the center here. This is your golden copy of your data. It's been deduplicated, it's been compressed, it is encrypted. This is your authoritative copy of your data. Even if a DR event comes through and takes out half or even all of your offices, highly improbable scenario, you still have got your data protected in the Amazon or the Google or the Microsoft cloud of choice on the back end. The level of data protection there is remarkable. It really cannot be replicated, and has become really a competitive necessity in today's IT world to leverage it in an intelligent way. And unstructured data is a perfect use case to leverage there. Each location either has a virtual or a physical appliance. We're a software company at the end of the day. These physical appliances are made by Dell and serviced by Dell's logistics worldwide. They're optimized and designed high performance to do this caching very, very fast. But it's all about the software at the end of the day. Present that data locally, and that is all driven by algorithm, by user activity. So whatever they're working on is cached locally. They can see and access any data at any time that they have permissions to. So your Active Directory and your security simply gets pointed at the Panzura share and is applied. You do nothing different than you do today with your existing Microsoft file environment. This simply replaces that from an unstructured data standpoint. When changes are made to a file, whether it be a spreadsheet, whether it be an engineering model, only the change blocks are moved. So instead of moving these big data sets all around out of necessity, you're only moving the change blocks up to the cloud and then syncing. If those same files are being utilized other places, they're working on the same model, those changes are moved over in real time. So real time, you always know you're working with the latest copy of the file, and that you can't overwrite what someone else is writing to that particular file because we've got global file locking in place and the most advanced version of that out there today. So you don't have to worry about file corruption. You don't have to worry about locks not being disconnected from the cloud. If you lose connectivity to the cloud, that you're able to continue on and be highly productive in light of those different scenarios. So at a very, very high level, that's how Panzura operates and works. You have a copy of the metadata in each location, which means a copy of, basically the table of contents, if you will, for all of your unstructured data out there, so everyone can see everything. And you have your active data cache locally, and you can go and access data from 2 years ago at any time. That's in your authoritative copy in the cloud at any time, and download that and do it in a very efficient and highly resilient manner with all your data protection incorporated. Panzura appliances, this is actually a cross-section. We have a whole family of physical appliances as well as virtual appliances. Our model is very straightforward in terms of acquisition, simply acquiring the appliance and user licenses. Those are one-time purchases, and you simply pay for maintenance on a go-forward basis, and ensures that your hardware and your software and software updates and new versions you have access to at all times. So if you look at things from a 4, 5, or 6 year TCO, you won't find a better value, and you won't find a higher impact on performance and capability, because we truly are a global file system and not a niche solution that's going to bring value to the entire company, especially to the engineering productivity, but to the whole organization. And that pretty well sums it up. So I will be happy to open it up for any Q&A from our audience today.
So far, no questions are coming through. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them in the question pane. We have somebody that would like to know more about latency.
Sure. So I'm going to back up a couple slides here and talk more about that. So what latency basically is the delay in communication due to going out back and forth, having to make these literally with Civil 3D or Revit hundreds or thousands of trips have to take place between the central server and the user's workstation. That's the nature of these applications, how they work and how they have to work. So think of it this way. So if you're in Atlanta and you have to drive to Birmingham, and you've got to do it 4,000 times. You've got a 4 to 6 lane highway going there, and assuming there's not an accident and you've got passable traffic, you can't get there any faster, whether it's a 2-lane highway or a 20-lane highway. The issue is that you got to go back and forth 4,000 times, and it is what it is. And that's the issue of latency. It's the time it takes. It's the delay in getting back and forth, and back and forth. Panzura solves that latency problem, latency in the time it takes to communicate over the network, and that's the highway being a metaphor for your network. So assuming that you've got not a gridlock network that's at 100%, all other things being equal, it's the nature of these applications having to go back and forth hundreds or thousands of times to complete these simple tasks, and thus the resulting 22 minutes it takes to do that is the issue, and that's what latency is. Panzura solves that latency problem by presenting that data locally instead of making it go back and forth across the network between office locations. Because the data integrity of these models and these applications requires that. Because we coordinate, we present that data locally, but cache it, the active data locally, and sync all those changes up with the master copy in the cloud is how that's overcome, and it's overcome extremely efficiently. So I hope that answers your latency question.
We just got another question in. It says, I know you said Panzura is scalable for companies of all sizes, but often cloud storage services are too costly for small firms. Over 90% of architectural firms are less than 10 people, and I run one of these small firms. Is Panzura priced for companies like mine? My goal is to run a centralized Revit model that my employees can access from their home offices and engineers can have access from their office.
Gotcha, great question. Well, there are obviously economies of scale come into play for all companies depending on size, for sure. So I would say we talk offline about your specifics in terms of budget and requirements. I'll make no bones about it. It could be more challenging to justify at a firm of that size. It potentially could be. It may not be, depending on what your use case is and how many remote employees that you have. But so that's probably the best way to answer that. So it can be challenging if you're extremely small, and what a normal capital investment might be at another firm is looked at very, very differently, obviously, in a very, very small size business. So I appreciate the question, and it's a good question.
Another question is, file sizes are average for our multifamily projects at 640 megabytes after purged and audited. Will this be an issue with architectural and mechanical? Architectural is 640 megabytes, structural is 250, and mechanical is 450.
No, not at all. Those are not uncommon sizes whatsoever. We deal with sizes much, much larger than that with ease as well. So not an issue.
All right, it looks like that might be all the, oh, we just got one, estimated sync time for it. I think regarding the last question.
Without knowing a little more specific data, might be probably difficult to answer with any kind of credibility. In terms of you'd be going order of magnitude improvements. You're going from minutes to seconds, and we deal with some customers who are not even able to sync at all around the world. They're able to sync pretty effectively with Panzura. That's a tough one to answer. I'm not begging off on the question. It depends on the the distances involved to know exactly how long it would be, but safe to say that it would be pretty brisk in those environments. I mean, you'd be talking seconds again in all likelihood, unless you had something highly unusual going on. So maybe not 8 seconds, but maybe 15 or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. While waiting for the next question, any other questions that come in, I would reiterate one thing: is that when I'm meeting with C-level folks inside engineering firms, whether it be CFO, CEO, or COO, which I often do, the opportunity for the firm to be able to transform how they are storing data, how they're collaborating on data, how they're protecting their data. I have not met a C-level person yet that this hasn't had they aren't profoundly interested in taking action on this. And the opportunity to simplify and to streamline their traditional go-to-market from an IT infrastructure standpoint, and the opportunity for IT to be much more strategic and efficient for what they're focusing on, be able to focus on strategic things for the business versus on the traditional keep the lights on, keep the equipment running and maintained, and service calls and so forth, is quite profound, and it really is the future of the business, right? Being able to focus on the core business and not on the what up until now has been strategic necessity, but is becoming more superfluous with the new solutions out there today. And I would encourage everyone to think about it in those terms, because this is not just a niche solution for collaboration. It's far, far more than that. It's an opportunity to make a strategic impact on the business overall, both from an efficiency standpoint for your core engineers and designers and architects, but also for how you present and how you pay for and maintain your data infrastructure, and also how you, as important, how you protect that. And the market is moving there right now, and you can assure your C-level that your cooperation and your competition is adopting this at a very quick pace. And this is no longer, it's fast becoming no longer a nice-to-have enabler for one's business these days. So I encourage you all to take a look at this type of approach, and certainly welcome any more questions, and wish you all the best for the holidays.
Yep, looks like there's one more question. How does inviting others to collaborate work with Panzura? Can an engineer own the account and invite an architect to join a Revit model easily, or an architect invite a contractor, consultant, etc.?
Okay. If it's internal, then IT, simply it's controlling the access and permissions through Active Directory like you normally would. So I think that's pretty straightforward. So being able to collaborate with outside firms, we've got customers doing this today, and we have new solutions coming out in the first part of 2015 as well that are going to extend that as well. So being able to work, collaborate, and be able to firewall off all the rest of your file data and project data, which you probably don't want the collaborator to be able to see, be able to do it securely with the same performance of having with full-blown Panzura deployment. Our Secure Connect solution is coming out here in a few months that provides exactly that capability for being able to collaborate. If you're working on an 18-month or 60-month project with another firm on a particular project, then you can do that very quickly and securely, and know that you're able to control exactly what they see and have access to. So the answer is yes.
All right, great. A couple more questions. We've got Riverbend at the moment, over 1 gigabyte pipeline. What's the benefit of Panzura?
The benefit is, I guess the first question is, why do you have Riverbed in the first place? Is the key question. Is that do you really have a bandwidth problem, or do you have a latency problem? And for almost every AEC firm, assuming you're not running on less than T1, right? Assuming you're running on something reasonable and more standard. I say that tipping my hat to some remote parts of the country, or not suggesting that all construction sites or greenfield sites are going to have, if you're in construction, they're going to have the same bandwidth. But most offices in most areas, not all, will have access to 5 or 10 megabit or better business connectivity type of service, which is very, very reasonable, just from a simple cable modem standpoint. So looking at it from that point of view, not having more data, then you would have to ask yourself, why do I have Riverbed today? What is it solving? What is that investment getting me there today? Because if they're trying to solve your collaboration or latency problem, then that would no longer be necessary with Panzura. And why you might need Panzura is that, okay, I can spend the money on Riverbed, which is really not solving the latency problem, or I can employ something like Panzura that actually solves the latency problem, eliminates my need for needing to have Riverbed in the first place, and also will eliminate the need for me to continue buying traditional storage and file servers and backup software and maintenance for all those things, as well as my networking, some of my networking infrastructure. You may be able to retire your MPLS network and so forth, because if you're not running at 80–90%, you don't have a need for quality of service. Quality of service only comes into play if you've completely populated your bandwidth. And if you're taking all that traffic off of the network because you're not pushing the full-size models anymore and you're pushing the change blocks, you free up a tremendous amount of network bandwidth with Panzura as well. That's something we typically see with almost every AEC firm. They take so much pressure off the network because of the efficient nature of Panzura that they get a lot of other cursory benefits now as well, and allowing them to decommission a lot of that other traditional infrastructure. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, that person has clarified. They said the latency problem currently with Riverbed is 35 seconds. Best time, worst time is 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
And then
yeah.
they asked another question, what did Panzura do the same as Riverbed with not much more than 50% latency improvement?
Well, I have to know more about your environment. But if you understand the physics problem, the nature of the problem, you realize that it isn't about the network. It's about presenting that data locally is what truly solves that problem. And I would encourage a sidebar conversation. Be happy to chat with them on the side on that, because that kind of conversation can get a little bit more involved, need a little bit more detail to fully talk through. So presenting the data locally is always going to be significantly faster than trying to widen the highway and continue pushing information over the network every single time, without exception. And the other benefits to transforming your IT infrastructure at the same time. To say that the organization typically a fair amount of money, not only in the first year, but especially over a 3, 4, 5 year time frame. That's all relative to the size firm it is as well. So I don't want to suggest anything other. It is all relative.
Great. Well, it looks like that is all the questions that we have today.
Well, I really appreciate everyone's questions, and I know it's difficult to always maybe get answers in the context that you were looking for, so I'm happy to chat with anyone further, and just simply contact the ASTI team, and I'll be happy to have a much deeper dive conversation with you. Hope I did your questions justice today, and appreciate you keeping us in mind, and wish you all the best of health and joy in the holiday season. So thank you.
Great. With that, we're going to conclude the webinar. It will be available on our YouTube channel later today or tomorrow for you guys to view the recording. I hope you guys have a great holiday.